Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, welcome to online lecture number 15 of the mobile application development course. Today we are going to study fragments, dialogues and date pickers, and we are going to implement two apps that will demonstrate how to select date and time from these dialogues. So with that, let us see the outline of today's lecture. Today we are going to study what are fragments. A similar concept with fragment is called a dialogue, which we are going to see and we are going to practically implement it. And then we are going to use these fragment and dialogues in order to implement the date picker and the time picker. So we are going to see how to pick a date from a dialogue and how to pick a time and then from a dialogue and use it in our application. So first, what are fragments? A fragment is a behavior or a portion of a user interface within an activity. So it's a portion of a larger space. It's a particular behavior, a small behavior within a large activity. It's like a mini activity within the main activity with its own life cycle, and it's used for building a picker. So normally it is used to display a picker to the user. So what is a picker? Picker is a dialog box that allow user to pick something such as time and date. One benefit of using a fragment for a picker is that you can isolate the code section from managing the date and time for various locales. So you can like isolate your main code section using fragment, and then another section will handle or manage how to select date and time for various locals that display date and time in different ways. And then we have pickers, a related concept. Android provides control for user to pick a date or pick a time as a ready to use dialog. So built-in dialogues are provided to you. You just have to use them. Each picker provides control for selecting each part of time. So each picker has different options such as selecting the hour, the minute, AM and PM, and then you can also select month, day and year using these pickers. Using these pickers helps ensure that user selects that user can pick a time or date that is valid, formatted correctly and adjusted to the user local time. So this is an example of a picker. We have two pickers, one for selecting time and the other one for selecting date. So here you can like select the uh, hour, the minute and AM and PM. Similarly, you can select the month, the day and the year using the set date pickers. But a very related concept is there which I want to discuss first, and then inshallah we are going to implement these date and time picker apps, and that are called event listeners. So what are event listeners? So they are, you can say, callback methods. They are special type of methods and they are called when some event happens. So an event listener is an interface. So it's an interface in a view class. So we have already built in view class that contains a single callback method. Callback methods are those methods that are called when some event happens. These methods will be called by Android framework when the view to which listener has been registered is triggered. So when something happens, when some event happens, and when that view is registered uh, by the user, and the user interact with the item in the user interface, then the event will happen and these listener will be called. So once again, these methods will be called by Android framework when the view to which listener has been registered is triggered by user interaction with the item in the UI. So here are some examples of event listener. So we have set on click listener, callback when a view is clicked. So when you click a button, so this method, this callback method will be called. And then we have set on drag listener. It's a callback when a view is dragged. set on focus change listener. Similarly, we have set on generic motion listener, set on hover listener, set on key listener, set on long click listener, and such as set on touch listener. So these are all different types of events, and when these event happens, a callback method will be called. So it's very important to first understand what are these listeners. So listeners are just methods. They are registered to some event, and when that event happen, so these methods are executed. So here is a simple example. You have view a button. When you click a button, the on-click listener method callback is executed. So, so a method on click is executed, and then but first you have to also register set on click listener with this button. So we are going to see all these options practically. So let me first create a new app, and let me so let us select empty activity. Let me call it a date picker, and let us wait for the Android Studio to complete its job of creating a project for us. Remember, Gradle is a build tool that manages your files, that converts file to APK file. It is also a configuration management software, library management software, or dependency tool. It has several functionalities, and like you can easily it ensures that you can easily uh, create an app or work on your main idea while managing the rest of the files. So our project has been created. So let me first go to the layout file. Let me open the layout file, and you can see the hello world project. So first I'm going to select it, and yeah, we are in design tab. I need some space, and the first thing I'm going to do is to change the text, and that is select date, and enter. And I'm going to give it an ID of text view, and I think I should go to the code part. Yeah, we have a text view, and I'm going to set the text size to 30 sp, and we have some other options like text color. So text color will be declared inside the color file, and I'm going to use the black color, and I think I should remove the bottom constraint, and I'm going to say margin top is equal to 30 dp. So let us see. Yeah, that's look fine. So select it. So it is constrained to the top, to the left, to the right. Now I need a button, so I'm going to constrain it to the left, to the right, and then we are going to set the text for the button. First I'm going to give it an ID of date picker button, and our text will be January 1st of January 2021. Should also constrain it to the bottom, and that's it. That is looking fine. I'm going to set the other properties in the code view. One of them is text size, and it's 30 sp, and text color black, and we are going to say when we on set an on click listener, so we are going to call a method called open date picker. Open date picker. Yeah. So let us create it in the main activity to get rid of this error. And I'm also going to define a style, and the style is Android spinner style. So SPI double N. Yeah, this one. I think that's it for the properties. Let me once again view it. So this is our button, and if I go to the code, text color is black, and I think that we are done with the design part. And let us go to the coding part where we are going to implement add code to this app. So the first thing is that we are going to declare two variables. The first one is private date picker. So we are going to use a date picker dialog and call it date picker dialog. And the second one is button, and it is a date button. So let us import this button. Okay, so inside this on create method, we are going to um, have an initial date. So initial date picker, and get the reference of the date button by using find view by id r.id dot date picker button. So we are having an error, and that is because this method uh, is not created. So let us create this method. Okay, and the last thing we are going to do is to inside this on create method is to date button dot set text set text, and we are going to call a method get today's date, and I'm going to call this method here inside this set text method. Okay, so let us also create this method and get today's date, and the return type will be string. Okay, so with that, let us get the today date. So inside this method, I'm going to use a calendar class and create an object call this calendar.getInstance method in order to get the object of calendar class, and then we have year. So we can get year by calling get calendar dot year. Similarly, we are going to get the month by calling get calendar dot month. Because months usually starts with 0, so make sure to increment it. And the last thing is the day. Get calendar dot day of the month. And then because we have to return a string, so we can return and call another method make date string, because we have to convert it into string, and pass it month, day, month and year. So this method is not created, so let us create it. It will return a string, date in string. Alright, so here we can say return get month format and pass it month. So we are going to format this month plus concatenate something, concatenate it with day and a space and then year. So we have to get the format for the month, so that is why let us create another method, and this method will, if month is equal to 1, so this method will return January. Similarly, if month is equal to 2, then return Feb. Make sure to align it properly. I'm going to copy this statement in order to save time. Okay, so if month is equal to 3, then we are going to return March 4, then we are going to return April. If it is 5, then we are going to return May, and then we have 6 for June, 7 for July, 8 for August, and then we have 9 for September, 10 for October, 11 for November, and 12 for December. And what should be the default case? So we can say that default should never happen. And we are going to return, in case it is default, we are going to return January. Okay. Okay, with that, I'm going to move up, and so let us see. So we get the today's date by this calendar class, and then we make date string by calling this make date string method, and then we format the month. So this will return the date in string, and we get here make date string, and then we return it to this here at this position, and the date for this button will be set to the date which we have selected, or the current date. Okay, so with that, I think we are now in position to, so yeah, we are now in position to initialize the date picker, and then register the listener with this date picker dialog. So first we are going to uh, implement the listener. So it's date picker dialog dot on date listener. So date set listener equals new date picker dialog dot on date set listener. So you can see that we have implemented an interface, and we have one method inside that interface. So this date picker dialog dot on date set listener is an interface, and it has only one method called on date set. So it gives us the date picker, the year, the month, and the day. So better to call it day. And then inside this method, I'm going to say month is equal to month plus 1. Then we have date in string format, make date string, and pass it day, month, and year. So date will be converted into string and stored in this date object. And then date, for the date button, we are going to set text to date. But here we have, so far we have implemented the method of the date picker dialog listener, but we haven't registered it. So in order to register it, once again we have to get the calendar class and make the object of it, and then we can say get instance of the calendar, and we are going to get the year, calendar dot year, we are going to say cal.get calendar.month, and then similarly for the day, get calendar.day of the month. Okay, so from the calendar we get the year, the month, and the day, and we are going to define the style for the dialog. So the style will be alert dialog dot theme dot hollow light. So we have the date, we have the style, and the last thing to do is to set that date picker dialog and create the object of date picker dialog and pass in with this activity the style, the date set listener. So we have to register it. So whenever like we click on that button, so a dialog will appear and then this method will be called. Okay, so once again let me repeat what we have done. So we have this button initially and we set the date to whatever it was, and I think we should do one other thing. Yes, open date picker, and here we are going to show the date picker dialog dot, we have to show it. So when it is displayed, so you are going to here in this initialize date picker method, uh, you are going to get the year, day, date, month and day, and then pass it to this method where it will get the date picker, the year, the month and the day, and it will set on the date on the date button. So with that, it's time to run our app to see how it behaves on the emulator. Okay, so once again, whenever the user click on that button, date picker dialog will appear, and then you will be prompted to select the date, and we select that date using this calendar object, and then we pass it on to this date set listener where it will execute this method called on date set, and it is going to set the date for us by calling make date string method, and on return we will get a date in string format and we will set it on the date button. So the Gradle is still building. Let us wait for it, and I hope that it will complete its job soon. Okay. Okay, I think it is now installing. Gradle will finish in 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Operation succeeded. And yeah, you can see that we have this text view and the current date. So if I, because the style of the button is spinner, so if I click on it, you will see that this is the date picker. So you can select a particular date, April 3 2021, click OK. So the date will be set to that. The date will be displayed on that button. There is one thing that I want to do, and that is with the design. I think we should expand this button a little bit. Yeah, because you have noticed that spinner was appearing on top of this the digit 1. So view was not perfectly visible. So now you can see that the drop down arrow is separated, and you can select a particular date, um, a particular year, day, and a month. And if you click OK, so you will see that particular date on the on this button. Okay, there is one last thing that I want to discuss, and that is that if you do not want user to like go and select a date from the future, so what you can do, you can set date set listener. Okay, it's in fact date picker dialog dot get date picker dot set max date to system. Okay, it's system dot current time millisecond. So this will compel user not to select date that is in the future. So I will not be able to select a tomorrow's date. So let us once again click, and you can say that yeah, I cannot select the it's May 23, and then I cannot. Okay, it's May 23 and it's May 24 in my system, but I cannot. Okay, I can select May 24, but you can see that I cannot select the future date. So click OK, but I cannot select May 25. So with that, I should stop my lecture here. I'll see you in the next class. Take care and laugh.